What's up, guys? Welcome to another Fantasy Fellowship fandom discussion. As per last episode, we're discussing the Game of Thrones fandom here. The last few episodes, we've discussed characters, the books, TV shows, and theories. This time going forward, we're going to discuss the spin-off shows such as House of the Dragon, the Jon Snow series that is allegedly going to come out next year, as well as other potential series. So looking forward to chatting to that. I think we should start with House of the Dragon, which obviously has been a massive success after a lot of people were very lukewarm on the announcement and how it was going to be perceived. But at least for me anyway, and it seems like for a lot of other people, House of Dragon has been a massive success. And I know, Sarah, you've been loving House of Dragon and Damon especially. So, yeah. A little bit about.
I've honestly loved every minute of it. You know, like I was saying earlier about how waiting each week for a Game of Thrones episode is like been that feeling again. And every episode has just like ended so exciting. And then because we've been kind of like we've had like a group chat in the Discord, and then everyone's been like dropping memes, and it's just been the fucking best. I was like, I absolutely loved the first couple of episodes, and then I was really anxious about the time skip. But they did it really well. Like the first episode, when they kind of aged up a lot, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know. But no, I ended up really like loving the older characters. And yes, I do have a very special soft spot for Damon. What a fucking guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I remember you saying in the Discord that time, no one can resist Damon's charms, but at the time you said Damian.
That was definitely a typo. You're not quite a Damon. Damian.
Not a typo.
Do you wish you were him?
Yeah, he's pretty great. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever like seen a character with that much charisma. And like the first episode, I didn't like him because it was when he'd just taken over the what's it called?
City Watch.
Yeah, and like he was an absolute like dickhead in that episode, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
And like I don't even think it's that I fancy him. He's just fucking oozing with charisma.
He is, yeah.
And what a performance from Matt Smith. But all of the performances have been amazing. Like Viserys, he deserves all of the awards.
Yeah. Like Damon's been good, but I think he has been on another level. He's been amazing throughout, and just like it's just seeing his like exasperation with everything as well. It's just this is normal guy that just wants to fucking rule his kingdom and have an easy life, and everyone's making it so difficult for him, and he's just getting so fed up with
dinner scene. Like I genuinely found so fucking emotional when he was like on his last legs. Bless him. Yeah. He just wants like his family that he loves so much to come together. Like it was brutal.
It was brutal, yeah. It was. It's been really good, the House of the Dragon.
But I have to say though, my only negative is that I've really fucking struggled with the childbirth scenes. Like there was the one in the first episode which was horrific.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just got worse. And like the one in the last episode, that was fucking awful. Yeah. Like even for Game of Thrones standards, I've found them really hard to watch.
They have been pretty hard. And this is coming from a series where at the Red Wedding, a pregnant woman got stabbed in the stomach. So,
yeah.
It's
But like I can see kind of what they've done for the characters. Rhaenyra, she's like, yeah, she's amazing.
She is.
And both of the actors that have played her have been amazing.
Like you said earlier as well, you're a bit worried about the time skip and aging up the actors, and the girl, the Australian girl, Millie Alcock, who plays her before. I thought she was spot on. I thought she was good, and I thought, you're going to potentially ruin it here. Why would you not keep her for a few seasons? Because she's so good. And I was like really like apprehensive about the aging up thing because of that. He was the actress that plays them at the moment is really good. Yeah.
And also Alicent, like I remember I messaged my friend because I wasn't the age up episode, like I wasn't convinced on her straight away. Yeah. But she in the last couple of episodes was fucking fantastic.
She's been amazing. Especially that scene, when Aemond loses his eye, and they're all in the Great Hall, and
Oh my God,
they're all pointing the blame at each
yes.
other. And just that when she got the knife and she went for Rhaenyra, that
I was
whole
like, why
scene.
is no one stabbing this bitch?
No,
Yeah, it's amazing.
it was
That's
really
that's
good.
probably my favorite scene actually out of the whole series.
I wasn't actually in the book as well, so
Oh really?
yeah, it wasn't. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was
is
so well
anyone else
done.
read the book?
No.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
not actually read the book either.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's only a very small part of the book. Like the it doesn't actually start until page 339.
Yeah, because there was also other Targaryens prior to this.
Yeah, it's like over 100 years before we get to the very start, and then so it's like a lot of people were very like apprehensive with the way that they aged up the actors, but like having read the book first, because I read it just before the show. Like I obviously knew it was very like it was kind of essential. So a lot of the time when people are saying like why age up Rhaenyra, it's like, well, you're gonna see when her children are basically almost the same age that she is. So like she was meant to be 7 in the first ep, but they had to obviously change a lot of the timeline, and I think they did quite a good job of it.
You know, the most interesting thing I found in the show is how they aged the actresses. The male actors didn't age. Like you can see it's a Christian Cole, and I'm like, can you just give him 3 wrinkles so he appears a bit older, because he's like the same age throughout the season? And
that's such a good point.
Very
and Damon didn't age it.
So many memes about that. Yeah.
I mean, it was hilarious when you take the whole season into consideration and you see how the main characters, actually the main actresses, kind of age up and switch actresses, and the men just stay the same. And it was hilarious to me.
Yeah. But you see Viserys getting more and more happy.
I was going to say, apart from the series though.
But I think that's probably due to his illness as well, isn't it? But
because he was like 52, 54 when he died in the book. And well, he should be they're the same age in the show too, but obviously his illness kind of gave him a lot of advanced aging, which again didn't happen in the book. He just got a bit fat in the book. Actually, he didn't have any of these illnesses.
Yeah. And he allegedly died of natural causes.
Yeah, he just died in his sleep.
Yeah. But the book is written, the way the book, the Fire and Blood book is written is actually more fascinating to me than the content, because it's written like a chronicle, like a medieval chronicle, and the person who is writing it, a maester, writing it a very long time.
Gilded.
Yeah, he's writing it really a lot of ages after these events are finished, and he's using some sources which are, some of them are okay, some of them are kind of iffy, so you never really know if this is like what really happened, or is it misogyny, or is it just from the victor's point of view, or his point of view, like what are his thoughts. You never really know what is the truth and what is someone's view in it. That's the reason I really like that book.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective on it, isn't it? Very.
Yeah, in the book, at least for the section that we're covering in the show, there's 3 different sources that Archmaester Gildain, because he's writing this book like over like 170 years after the events that take place in the show. So he's got 3 sources of information. And one is a Septon, one's a Maester, and one is the Court Fool. His version of events are always like the juiciest, most exciting version. And a lot of them, they actually, like, they've definitely gone with more, because they had to, in the show, they had to, give one version of events. Obviously, they can't present 3 or 5 or 10 different versions. But more often than not, they went with Mushroom's version of events, which I thought was very interesting. Like, in the whole thing with like Rhaenyra sneaking out with Daemon and whether or not she had an affair with him, when she was younger. that was only one of many versions of events. Only Mushroom said that they had like affairs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But they went with that, which I thought was pretty interesting.
And a lot of things that were kind of just presented as rumors in the books.
Yeah, definitely.
They weren't rumors in the show, which I liked really. It was interesting to see how fans reacted to Rhaenyra. Like they had a really, really positive reaction towards her. When in the book, like the reaction of her contemporaries was sometimes very negative.
I think it's because I think they've kind of sanitized her character a little bit. They've made her a bit more likable. The same with Alicent. Like, I'm really curious to see where they go from here, though, because in the book, so far they haven't changed like too much about their personality. They've made them a little bit more likable and given them like excuses for the way that they've acted rather than just having big personality faults. But forward, like, because like Alicent and Rhaenyra are not good people, but the show's making them a lot better.
Yeah, a lot more likable. Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm really curious to see if they like continue with that going forward to make them more likable, like better people, or if they make it like a bit more true to the books where they're very much like, a lot of the characters from Game of Thrones who were, not good people, but good characters.
Yeah. The dynamics like between the characters have been amazing. Like I love the dynamic between Rhaenyra and Alicent and the fact that we did kind of see them together as they were younger, and like the chemistry between Rhaenyra and Damon like in those early episodes was like you didn't really want them to get together, but you kind of did.
Yeah, definitely. That was the thing in the books as well. But the like in the book though, Alicent and Rhaenyra, they hadn't even met before like Rhaenyra, before Alicent basically like married the king. Like they definitely weren't childhood friends and they didn't even know each other. So that was a massive change. But the Damon and like Rhaenyra chemistry was always a big thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that was like executed well.
Another thing that I've really loved is like how much of a focus the dragons have been. That's been really fun. Like my favorite line from the whole season is in the last episode when Damon was talking and they were like, "Oh, the Greens have dragons as well," and then he like lists them off. The way he like delivered that line was incredible.
Yeah.
And obviously the big scene at the end, which I wasn't expecting, with the dragons.
My God.
Oh yeah.
The big dragon fight in the sky. Good old Aemond.
That's good. Do you like Aemond, do you, then, Sarah?
I think he's like, I could tell as soon as they'd aged him up and he comes back with that fucking eye patch, like you can just tell that he's going to be the character.
Yeah, I get what you mean. He was a little fucking knobhead at first, though, wasn't he? When he was like, when he started beating all the younger kids up, and they all got on top of him and started punching him.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's a little knobhead then. But yeah, he's
definitely going to be like the character, and like it already had Damon to throw another character with that you're going to be that invested in.
Yeah. Well, the theory is they're going to I don't know, based off Henry Cavill leaving The Witcher now, that they're going to sort of progress the time skip enough for him to come into it as Aegon the Conqueror, but I'm not totally sure with my time.
Who's he going to be?
So Aegon the Conqueror.
Comic-Con,
really?
No. He was asked at Comic-Con if he was going to do it, and he said no. So like he actually has addressed the question, but obviously there's been times in the past where actors have said that they won't do something, but they were just kind of keeping to their NDAs. So I think it'll be pretty cool. But he's definitely a lot older than Aegon the Conqueror was. I think Aegon the Conqueror was about 26 when he took Westeros, but Henry Cavill's already like 39, I believe. So he's definitely a bit older. But I mean, they've definitely changed the ages in this. So, pardon?
I think that makeup and CGI, I think, could sort it if they want to make him as closer to the Aegon's current age.
Yeah, I don't think it like changes too much if they like, you know, he's a bit older. Like Viserys was supposed to be 28 in episode 1. He was definitely a lot older than that, so it doesn't like matter that much. They've actually the plan is that this part, like this, the Dance of the Dragons, is going to be 4 seasons, and then after 4 seasons, they'll do another plot. Like it'll be called the same. It'll be called House of the Dragon, but it will be like a different part of the Targaryen history.
Yeah.
So the main idea for that is to do Aegon's conquest.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it could be a thing.
I thought they were going to skip to the Blackfire, to Aegon the Unworthy and all those.
I'd really like to see that, yeah. I think the main reason that they wouldn't do that yet, though, is because there's more that, like, George's part that he needs to do. Like, so the Fire and Blood book that House of the Dragon's based off is just volume 1. He's going to release, assuming, you know, he ever actually writes it, he's going to release a volume 2 called Blood and Fire. So I think if they were going to do the Blackfire Rebellions, which I think would be awesome for a show, I think they'd probably do that after he wrote Blood and Fire.
Right, so I need to ask you if something is in the book. Can you guess which scene it is?
No, go on.
The foot scene.
No, it's not.
That's
Oh god, that was awful. He genuinely terrifies me. That
incredible.
Pardon?
Just the episode before that was the episode before that. I was saying that he's like my new favorite character because
no.
I think that before that, I actually think that he's like the new Varys or Littlefinger.
Oh, especially he's scarier.
He's horrible. I can't stand it.
After reading the book, well, they've changed his character a lot. Like they kind of have to because the whole Dance of the Dragons is like 200 pages, maybe 300 pages of the book. It's when you think about 300 pages is going to make 4 seasons compared to like one book was 1 season in Game of Thrones. So like 900 pages was a season, whereas now 300 pages is 4 seasons. They really, really need to expand on things. So they're making his character, you know, they're giving them a lot of personality traits and weird foot fetishes that weren't present in the book.
Well, they're not, no. He's I'm not keen on him, but he seems very like odious to me. He just seems a lot more Weasley than even Littlefinger, you know, just to betray your family like he did, you know.
Yeah, so that was as Nessa said before, where in the books there's a lot of things that were just rumors. So like in the book, actually, the main thing with the fire that killed his brother and father was the main culprit was supposed to just be the Harrenhal curse, but there was a bunch of theories presented very briefly that different people were involved. So one theory was like Otto Hightower, one theory was Larys the Clubfoot himself, one was actually Viserys. So there's a whole different, like we're given about 5 different theories very, very briefly, and they just selected like that Larys was actually the murderer. The same thing with like Viserys with Damian killing his first wife. That was just like, you know, a very like one sentence throwaway. Maybe he did it, but most people believed he didn't actually because he was meant to be in a different location at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can we all agree that we hate Sir Kristen?
Of course.
Definitely. Which is So Kristen, I don't know a lot about him. I've not read of Fire and Blood. He's mentioned very briefly in Storm of Swords or Feast for Crows, and Jamie very much looks up to him. So
really?
So when I first heard about Kristen coming into the show, I thought, hey, Kristen Cole, I've heard about him. Jamie,
really remember that actually.
Yeah, he was going through his entry in the Kingsguard journal, and he wanted to be more like him. And I thought, Kristen Cole, you know, this is going to be quite interesting. and then he's pretty much an incel, isn't he? And I just thought, this isn't the guy I thought he was going to be. This is Jamie fucking Lannister here, worshipping this guy. And he's
definitely not quite as egregious in the book as he is in the show. But he's still a bit of a bit of a jerk. Like, basically, he's done everything he did in the show, but just like a bit less.
Yeah.
Not quite as extreme.
I mean, that final episode when he like puts the guy's head down, it was him, wasn't it?
So it was in the book, but it was different. Like, he killed him intentionally. He didn't kill him accidentally, because in the show he just pushed him down, like, back into his seat too hard. In the show, though, in the book, sorry, all of the characters in the room were like on board with, supporting Aegon over Rhaenyra, but he was the one who spoke against it, and he was going to leave the room to go, like, send a raven to Rhaenyra, I think it was, and then they just said no and killed him. But it was very like intentional, not an accident.
Louise, who's your favourite?
I think in like the very first few it was Rhaenyra, but I think in the sort of like 4th and 5th episodes, when you had like the time jump, she got a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but it was as if she lost her touch.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we finally seen her like come back to life in the end.
Yeah, that's actually. I wonder if that's a conscious choice or not, because in the book she's very much like she's called the Realm's Delight. Like, she's supposed to be very, very lovable when she's younger, but then she gets very changed around the time she's 20, because which is a lot later in the show, because she's aged up a lot. But around the time I think because she marries, I think she was 17 when she married Laenor. So around the time she married Laenor, between Laenor and Damon, she really like had a big personality change. She also went from being very, very pretty to overweight and losing her attractiveness.
According to sources.
Yeah. Well, that one's actually like presented as like objective.
Yeah,
she like lost her beauty. And
I think she gained weight and kind of changed the way she looks because of her pregnancies and everything else. But I think in the book, it's really like they really portray her negatively, and I'm not really convinced that she was that kind of overweight and that she lost her beauty, as much as this is a perspective of a man who is writing this 150 years after, and generally they were prejudiced against her.
It's true, but there's also like all sources agree on that though. So
yeah. I mean,
it could potentially be like an Archmaester Gildain bias, but like all of the other characters agree that that's an undisputed fact.
So, just quickly, Jon Snow show that's allegedly coming out in the new year. Not going to get into too much of a discussion about it, but from each and every one of you here to just give me your very quick bullet points of what you would like to happen and what you could see happening. So let's start with Louise.
To be honest, I haven't really thought about it. I'm just a little bit on edge because I know, or well, I've heard rumours that it's him that's went to them about the show and that he wants to make the show. And I think it's because he misses obviously being on Game of Thrones, and obviously he's one of the ones that took it the hardest. So I don't know where it's going to go at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true that he went to them. He definitely like really, really, really struggled after the show finished. He actually ended up in rehab, and apparently it's part of his like kind of like healing process is like wanting to do this show because he misses it so much. But yeah, I'm kind of going into it. I'm trying to go into it without expectations because I don't have as high hopes as I did for House of the Dragon. Like, I know House of the Dragon was based off a very solid book. Like, I love the book that it's based off, Fire and Blood. It's one of my top reads of the year. But the show, the Jon Snow show, is like, it's not based on any source material. And I think judging from past shows, like the latter seasons of Game of Thrones, from the Lord of the Rings show, and the fact that the Witcher show started to deviate from the books. I think that when a fantasy show either has no source material or it deviates from the source material, it's not as good as it would otherwise be. So I think like you can definitely see that with like the Lord of the Rings show. Like they didn't have the rights for the Silmarillion, but they were writing on stuff that based on that. And I think that's where the Lord of the Rings show really suffered. So it's leading me to not have high expectations for the Jon Snow show. So I'm really like just trying to go in without any expectations. And if it's good, then awesome. But I'm just not holding my breath too much.
Yeah. What about you, Ness? Where do you see it going?
I mean, I don't really think it's necessary, but I know why the actor wants to do it. So I hope it will be good for him, and I hope it will have a good script, like really solid script writing, that it's interesting. But personally, I don't see the point. Maybe I'll watch it if it is. If not, like, it's not a big priority.
Yeah. What about you, Sarah? What do you think?
Well, I don't like Jon Snow, so I'm not convinced.
You don't like it.
I'd be very interested if they kind of showed more backstory for, like, if it's like with the wildlings and they show more backstory for like the Night King and like the because there was like so much stuff that kind of just never went explained, like the symbols and everything.
Yeah.
So if it was going to go in that direction, I think I would prefer it to if it was kind of more like set in Westeros itself and like King's Landing and shit. I'd rather it was just the other side of the wall, I think, and just keep it completely separate. But I'm definitely not convinced.
Yeah. I think they might do that just because they don't, like, I doubt they're going to get a lot of characters from Game of Thrones back. So it wouldn't really work that well if they, went to a lot of the locations we've already seen. So I think for that reason, they might keep it mostly north of the wall.
Yeah, I should hope so as well. Just my quick ideas for it. I do think it should be north of the wall, and I think it should explore White Walker society, maybe, because we saw at the end of season 3 or season 4 with Craster's son getting turned into a White Walker. We saw that they do have a civilization, they do have buildings and lodgings, but we never really explored that in the show. So I would like to see that. Unfortunately, I do think they're going to bring Daenerys back because I do think that Drogon took her off for a reason at the end of the show. I think he's taken her off to the Red Priests.
I don't think Emilia Clarke would do it though.
I thought she just went back to. I thought he was taking her back to Valyria, and like that was her like resting place kind of thing. Because there's theories that Drogon went to live in Valyria because there's a lot of theories that like when he was leaving Meereen for long periods of time that's like he kind of made a home in Valyria, and then he was like taking her back there. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, I got that vibe as well. I don't know. I think Emilia Clarke doesn't want to come back. I think she was very, very pissed off of how season 8 went, going off interviews and whatnot. I don't think she was happy in the slightest about it. I think if the writers get their own way, she will come back. Like Sarah said, please, I would hope it should be north of the wall. Focus on the wildlings, focus on the White Walkers, focus on the bits of Westeros we haven't seen. But I wouldn't be totally surprised to see Daenerys come back in some form. But that's my thoughts on it.
I just wanted to at least mention while we're talking about other spin-offs, there's actually 5 other spin-offs in the works right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's one that's called The Sea Snake, which is about like, because the Sea Snake was very, very famous for his 9 voyages where he went further than anyone has ever been before. So it was originally called like 9 voyages, but they didn't want to make too many shows with titles because they actually have another one called 10,000 Ships.
Mm-hmm.
And which is about Nymeria, which they mention it a lot at the start, like in the first like couple episodes of House of the Dragon. And then there's another one based on the Dunk and Egg books. And then which I think the book's actually pretty good. So I think that could be very interesting. And there's 3 short stories that combined is one book. And George has said in his blog that he intends to write another book of the Dunk and Egg stories. So he says that that's what he wants to do like in the near future so that the show can come out. there's a lot of theories that Duncan the Tall is actually one of the ancestors for Hodor. So Duncan is Dunk from Dunk and Egg. So the character from that is apparently Hodor's ancestor, which would be very interesting. And it makes sense that he's in Winterfell for that. There's also 2 other shows which we have a lot less info on, that so they might not get completed, because they did have another show called Blood Moon, which they spent 30 million on the pilot, and then they just ended up scrapping it just because they didn't think it was good enough. But they have another one called The Golden Empire, which is set in Yee, which is a far off place in Essos. And then there's another series set in Fleabottom, which people speculate that they might be bringing back like Davos or Gendry or some of the other characters that we've seen from Fleabottom before.
Yeah, no, it sounds interesting.
There's 7 spin-offs in total in the works, so
yeah,
it's a lot.
It should definitely be an interesting time for the Westeros fandom then. But once again, guys, I'd like to thank you for taking your time to join us tonight. It's been a really, really interesting and insightful chat. I've enjoyed talking to each and every one of you. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Damian.
Thank you.
No, thank you, guys. And as usual, guys, if you like today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, whoever, and keep an eye on the YouTube for more interesting and exciting content that we have coming up. You're also welcome to join our Discord community, which you can find over on Instagram at Fantasy Fellowship. You can also find us on Twitter as well at Fan Fellowship. And we also have a website, which you will see the link for in the comments below. Once again, guys, fantastic night. I hope to have another sort of discussion like this going forward. Maybe not so long, because it was a pretty long one tonight. But yeah, guys, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.